in at any point, let us know. Obviously, if you've got any questions throughout, absolutely pop your hand up, we can answer those. And Laura is monitoring the chat box as well, just at the side. If you've got any questions or anything you wanted to add, obviously she can reply to that for you as well. So welcome to our workshop. We're very passionate at Little Hands about interactions and having meaningful play. So we thought, what better way to show this than make a presentation and share it out to the parents. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Sandy. I am the Deputy Manager at Amblecote. And
I'm Emma, and I'm the manager at our Bromsgrove branch.
Lovely. So we're going to be overseeing generally a lot of the different workshops. So a lot of the management team are working together from different branches and carrying these out. Obviously, that's going to show how consistent it is throughout all the branches, and obviously give us the opportunity to network as well with the other branches. So you'll get to meet us all, whether it's on screen or off screen. We're always about. So any questions, obviously you can always give us a call or drop us an email, and we can obviously answer those for you. So our introduction, how we want to start. What is play? Play looks very different for every person. I explained to a show around this morning. I remember when I was very young, I climbed trees, I made mud pies, I played with worms in the garden. I don't feel that necessarily happens as much anymore. There's a lot of iPad usage. Obviously, they're more excited about doing weird floss dances and things that I don't generally understand anymore. But obviously, we really want to kind of bring out those curious minds and get the children to really explore what they can do, what their bodies can do, pushing the limits of what they can do, basically, and where they can go with that. So the biggest thing that we want to emphasise with play is individual. It is unique to yourself. Same as it is for children. You know yourself as an adult. If you're going to learn something new, you might not learn it the same way as somebody else learns it. Your brain is completely different. It's wired completely different. We've all had completely different experiences. The outcome is still exactly the same, but that's just how we learn. I think the educational system has definitely taken that on board in recent years. Again, when I was younger, we learned to count to 5, but you learned the way they told you to do it. You had to learn it that way. There was no other way. And me personally, as I've got slightly older, I found out I'm dyslexic, so my brain just didn't work that way. Whereas nowadays, it's actually, they're very much open to, you need to learn that, that's where you need to be, but actually let's try different routes to get there. And that's the biggest part of our educational system here at Little Hands, is giving children those opportunities. So a couple of examples that I've pulled out is, for example, tying shoelaces. Obviously, you won't be able to do it right now. Maybe at Christmas, over Christmas dinner, ask numerous people to tie their shoelaces in front of you, and you'll find that actually not one person potentially ties them the same way. I know my partner taught our children to tie them around a tree and over a rabbit. Then I taught them to poke them in the loops and tie a hole. Basically, the outcome is still the same. The laces are still tied. You still accomplish that, but it's just in a different way, and everyone does it slightly differently. Same for counting. I've just trialled this one. I've just said to the staff and the team in the room, can you count to 3? And I had one person go 1, 2, 3. I had one person go 1, 2, 3. I had another one go 1, 2, 3. You can count 1, 2, 3. You still get the 3 outcome, but your brain is wired in a certain way for you to remember how to do that. And that's absolutely fine. And that's what we want to make sure that the children are able to do here at Little Hands. So we're going to break down slightly. So we look at some of the behaviours a little bit further.
Sorry.
I need to go through that anyway. So we look at schematic behaviours, so regular behaviours. So what do you see? What does your brain do? So you might see children, for example, lining things up. You might see children looking at wheels, looking at things spinning. They're showing an interest, and they're seeing that behaviour, that's how they want it to be. So that's how their brain is wired. So we're going to go on to the next slide now. And I'm sure you've probably seen these before, but if you haven't, just take a couple of minutes and have a look at them. Basically, each picture has 2 different perspectives. So have a look, give you a couple of minutes and see if you can work out what each of them are.
I can definitely only see one image in the first one. I can see 2 in the others, but the first one, it's really got me stumped.
Can anybody else see 2 in the first photo?
I can only see 2 in the middle one.
So if you look,
Yeah, me too.
yep. So if you look at the first one, you've got on the far left-hand side, it looks like either a giant nose or it's a lady's chin.
Yeah, it's either a really, really pretty looking lady from behind or a really ugly.
Absolutely. Or a lady that's had a hard time. Yeah. Then your middle one, obviously you've got 2, looks like, or an older couple, or you've got 2 gents with sombreros and little guitars singing. That's your 2 options. And the third one, which had me stumped for a very long time, it's either a duck or a rabbit.
Yeah.
It's one of those, when you can see it, you can see it. But obviously this is a real prime example. They're traditional pictures, you would have probably seen them before, but it shows that actually it was that whole how does it look, how do I perceive it, what's my history. If you haven't seen a duck before, you might not recognize it was a duck. If you haven't done these activities before, your brain may really struggle to sort it out. But if you've done lots before, your brain may have gone straight away, yes, I know that, I can see what that is. But it's just another way of showing obviously how your brains are so intertwined and the connections are different to the experiences you had when you were younger. So the next thing we're going to want to look at that is obviously going a bit more into detail of schemas. So I don't know what your experience with it is. If you type schemas into Google, you will get quite a bit of information on each one. Schemas, I feel, are a really good way to realise that children are normal. I think you quite often see parents go, they're lining up their trucks or their trains, and that's all they ever do. Everything they get, they line it up. And some parents can panic that this isn't a normal behaviour for a child, but it absolutely is. It's things that I always say I find myself. So I've got drawers in the fridge where I put the chocolate bars or I put the fruit in, but I'll put them in tidy, I'll put them in neatly, because that's what I like to do. For me, that satisfies me that I know they're neat, they're tidy, they're in there. That's perfectly normal. These children want to line up, they want to see how the trains look. Again, that's perfectly normal. Different schematic behaviours. There are 9 different types, which we can send a PowerPoint out so you can have a look at these, and they break them down a little bit more. But it's things like trajectory, so throwing things, watching an impact. So are they riding their bike really fast into the wall because they want to feel the impact? That can be perceived as a negative behaviour. Throwing toys across the room towards their peers, that can be seen as negative behaviour, but actually it's a trajectory schema where they're exploring what their bodies can do. So what happens if I throw this? What happens if I pick up something heavier? So that's why we would then start to look at how can we satisfy that urge. So actually, if they're throwing something across the room, we would then give them something heavier so they can use an experimental side of it instead. So we're not stopping that behaviour, because if they schemas are a typical part of child development, so they need to go through these different schemas to be able to achieve and to be able to scaffold their own learning ready for adulthood and later childhood. So we can definitely break these down. We've got explanations on each one, and we've also created a document called our curriculum as well, which will go out to parents in the upcoming weeks for you to look through, and that breaks down schemas as well. So it gives you a really good insight as to what each schema is and how it may look for different children. Lovely. Next one. And the next one, before I pass you over to our lovely Emma, one of the biggest things that we look at, it's part of the Ofsted guidance, but it's general practice of what we observe with children, is something that we call the characteristics of effective learning. So these are the kind of things that we might talk to you about as parents, we might drop it into conversation. As you can see from the slide, it's really looking at how do they play and explore, how are they facilitating their own learning, how is their learning active, are they being creative and thinking critically. Obviously, we want the children to be able to do this. So this involves us encouraging them to try and error, encouraging them to make mistakes, to work out how they can fix it. So if something falls down, we don't just pick it up for them. We work alongside them. We give them the confidence to believe that they can fix it and they need to work it out. You know for yourself, you know, your driving test is a prime example. If someone was to take that for you, you wouldn't then be able to drive. So actually you need to do that. You need to struggle with that reverse parking. You need to struggle with emergency stops to be able to go, actually, this is the process that my brain and my body needs to take to make sure that I can do that and achieve that target properly. And there's going to be numerous times that you'll probably reverse into posts, or, you know, not stop at red lights because you don't spot it till the last minute. We've all been there, and things like those things happen. But it's the resilience and how you deal with those things, which is what we want to fully embed, because we want children to be resilient. We don't want them to give up. We want them to keep trying and facilitate their own learning. So the characteristics is a really effective way of saying, actually, this is what we expect from the children. This is what we want to work alongside them with, for them to be able to fully embed this into their own play. And this is where something called the definition of teaching comes into place also. This is where your place as a parent or carer would come in as well. So we look at interactions with the children, which Emma will break down a lot more for you on the next few slides. We look at communicating and modelling language. So we don't just give them the answer, we give them the time to speak, and we give them modelled language. If a child says to you, I've got a bread car for a red car, you go, yes, that's right, you've got a red car. Because they've given you the right answer, you've given them that confidence, but actually you're then saying to them, you're then giving them the right language afterwards. Modelling language is giving them that language. So giving them chance to speak, but equally extending it. So if they're telling you it's a car, you can then go, yes, it is a red car, because you're then giving them new language, you're facilitating. Looking as well at the environment, how can you utilise the environment for the children? How can you facilitate their learning? So if you can see that they're building a tower, you could just put some things by them. So you could put some bricks, some tyres, you could put things that you know isn't going to build, but actually then it will fall, and they will be able to use trial and error and use their friends to support them. So you can build so many areas of the UFS through doing this. And that's obviously how we facilitate next steps then and look at communication and language. But Emma will go through all of that with you now. So I'll pass you over to the lovely Emma. Obviously, any questions at the end, we will go through them. Thanks, Emma.
Hello. Fabulous. Thank you, Sandy. So obviously, Sandy's touched on the kind of communication and interaction side of things in regards to the definition of teaching that was found in our Ofsted handbook. And I'm just going to kind of go into a little bit more detail of what that will look like in setting, and also how you can support that at home as well. So as an early years setting, we follow the government statutory guidance, the Early Years Foundation Stage Framework, also known as the EYFS. And then within that document, it kind of says about interactions, that children's back and forth interactions from an early age form the foundations for language and mental development. And the number and quality of the conversations they have with adults and other children throughout the day in a language-rich environment is crucial. So with that in mind, obviously we have lots of different strategies that we use, which are really, really beneficial to the children. And one of those that we use on the daily is something we call the commenting approach. So the EYFS suggests that by commenting on what children are doing or what they're interested in and echoing back what they say with new vocabulary added, you will build children's language effectively. So the commenting approach is a really simple strategy, and it's used daily at nursery and can easily be implemented at home. So whilst your child is playing, you do exactly what it says on the tin and you comment on their play. So I've just got a few examples of what that might look like. So if you're exploring the train track with your child at home, you might comment something like, Jimmy has the red train, the train goes choo-choo, Jimmy's fixing the train track, Jimmy's joining the carriages, Jimmy has a long train, Daddy has a short train. And then similarly, we might kind of comment on our own actions as well whilst we're just carrying out day-to-day tasks. And this is a really good way of modelling language as well. So you might kind of say, when you're doing the chores, Mummy's taking the bin outside, Daddy's washing the dishes, Mummy's putting her shoes on, just so that you're constantly exposing them to lots and lots of language and lots of new ideas, kind of that way. Next slide, please, Laura. Fabulous. And then going into a bit more detail in terms of our interactions with children, we use this kind of traffic light system. So it's kind of really self-explanatory, but I'll go through each step with you now. So the red stop is basically telling you that you need to give your child time to absorb what you've said. So experts advise allowing 10 seconds for your child to respond to what you've said or that you've asked of them before repeating your instruction, statement or question. This is due to children's brains needing at least 10 seconds to process the information they've received, of course, before like having the time to create a response before it's either verbalized or acted upon. And then obviously the amber color is all about listening to your child. So when you're listening to your child, make sure that you're looking directly at them, actively listening to them. We try at nursery to always be down on the child's level so that we're like on the same height. So it's easier for them to feel like we're really engaged with them. I feel like everyone should wear knee pads at nursery because they're always on their knees at that level with the children. But that's predominantly why, is so that we're always at their level, so that they don't feel either intimidated by our height, they feel like they're really relaxed, and our eyes are at the same level, so it's easier for them to obtain our eye contact and be able to have those meaningful interactions that way. And then of course the green area is responding to what they've said, and Sandy kind of touched on this. So in response to your child speaking to you, always repeat what they've said to you. This kind of models the correct pronunciation, and then try expanding on their vocabulary. So like adding 1 or 2 words to the end of their sentence, because this will provide some additional vocabulary. So if your child says hat, you might say red hat or red fluffy hat to kind of give them a little more vocabulary to pop in their bags. And then at the bottom of the poster, you can see that there's like a little hand. So the hand rule is it's a great way for you to kind of ensure that everything's quite meaningful and you're not repeating yourself too much, and you are allowing that time, because children can become quite overwhelmed if you're questioning them over and over again. So it's like a little challenge for us, but it's really, really beneficial. So for every 1 question you ask of a child, they suggest that you either make 4 comments, so as explained previously, like commenting approach, repeating what they've said. So this could be you repeating what they said, repeating your child's phrase back to them, and then either an expansion, so that again is like expanding on what they've said, giving them some additional vocab, or explanations, so kind of going into more into depth of what you're asking of them. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how do we ensure that meaningful interactions take place at nursery? We're really lucky that all of our staff are qualified to level 3 and they've received accredited training and qualifications. And alongside that, all of our apprentices are also striving towards their level 3 qualifications. They're receiving copious amounts of support and guidance from all of the staff team. There's lots of networking opportunities available for staff to learn off each other. And then the apprentices kind of put all that they're learning through their studies into practice, which is a lovely way for them to really get the feel of how to be communicating and playing meaningfully with the children. And we're really proud that our Stourbridge and Amblecote settings have got their communication friendly setting accreditation. Put my teeth back in. So they've met lots of different competencies to ensure that they're high quality communicators, and then all staff within our Bromsgrove branch have also received this training, and we're just waiting to go through the accreditation in the coming years, so that's quite exciting. We also use Makaton signing, so we use that kind of alongside our speech when we're talking to the children, and each setting has a poster displaying either a sign of the month or a sign of the week. So keep your eyes peeled, because they should be all around the settings for you to be able to start learning some Makaton with your children. And finally, something that we really, really take pride in is the fact that we use a communication and language programme created by Speech and Language UK called Early Talk Boost. And it's a 9-week programme which helps children to begin to develop a real understanding of their language and vocabulary, kind of like grasping concepts, as well as listening and attention and turn-taking skills. So those are a few of the ways that we kind of ensure that's happening at nursery. So you can trust us, you can trust that your children are in good hands, they're getting meaningful communication with us, they're getting meaningful play. And of course, everything that we kind of have learned and taken on from all of these different kind of accreditations and programs, we then kind of put into practice in setting. But alongside doing the talk booth sessions at nursery, we also kind of develop like home learning packs, which are able to kind of go home with parents. So once your child has completed a session at nursery, if they've shown a really, really keen interest, or we found that actually it's a way that's going to really close that gap in development in one little area, we might send a pack home with you to do at home, in this, like just to kind of boost that interest and that skill. So on our next slide, we've got a video. So it's basically a video of one of our staff members and a child at the Bromsgrove branch, and they're sharing a story together. And then after we viewed the video, we'll have a little discussion about what your thoughts are, like whether you feel the interactions were meaningful, was the staff member patient, allowing time for the child to respond, were the child's ideas considered, and were the learning opportunities considered as well. So if you have a little look, make some notes in your head, and then we'll have a discussion after.
So if I do this right, you should be able to hear the video and see it. So if you can't hear it or see it, please give me a shout and let me know and I can start it again.
Thank you, Lara.
There's the flowers. Oh, and there's the rainbow. Oh, and there's lots of different shapes. Can you find the shape, Sky? Oh, can you find the yellow square? Oh yeah. Shall we see what other animals we can find? Shall we turn over the page? Oh look. Oh, there's snails. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 snails. Oh, let's turn over there. Oh look, there's lots of different shapes on here. Can you find the shapes? Oh yes. Oh look, he's driving.
Fabulous. So what are your thoughts? I know there's only a few of you, so if you don't want to speak, that's fine. But does anyone have any comments they want to make about the video? Is anyone going to be brave?
I'll comment, Emma, because people might not know on this video that that's actually my daughter. And I'd seen that video and I now understand why the reasons behind the videos that you sent to me. So I think it's a little bit rushed.
Yeah.
And Emily perhaps wasn't giving Sky the time to kind of go through the words that she was saying and wasn't responding to those words, and actually makes a huge amount of sense to me now that I've seen it in the context that you're showing it. So yeah, I'm happy to make those comments because I know there's only a few people on the call.
It's quite funny because this video was the hardest one to make because it was so unnatural to Emily to not consider everybody, like what the child was kind of saying, and like skipping the pages. And there were a few times where she was stumbling on her words because she was like, I really want to acknowledge what you're saying to me, but I just can't for the purpose of this video. So she did find it really tough. But no, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it was like really, really rushed. There were no kind of considerations to the child's ideas or like pointing things out, and it was very much like no independence given for turning the pages. It was all very, very child-led and adult-led, and obviously we like to allow the child to take a lead on their play and their interactions and things. So on the next slide there is another video which I'd like to think has a lot better practice in terms of being able to extend the child's learning, and offers lots of praise and encouragement. And there's a lot more meaningful interactions. So if we go on to the next video, hopefully you will see that too.
There's lots of different animals on this page. There's the monkey. Well done, you found the monkey. The bear, well done, that's the bear. Shall we count them? Great counting. Well done, you. Shall we turn over? Good job, good turning over. There's some snails. A circle. 1, 2, 3. Super job. 1, 2, 3. The tiger! You spotted the tiger. Well done.
Isn't that just the cutest? So as you can see, like Emily was a lot calmer. Her tone of voice was a lot quieter, making it more of a relaxing environment for those interactions to take place. And she really took in consideration what was being said to her and pausing to allow time for the child to kind of have that interaction and share her ideas with Emily as well. So yeah, it was lovely interactions there. Does anyone else have any comments about that video before we move on to the next slide? Are we all good? We're all good. Fabulous. If we move on to the next slide then. So we'll now open up kind of the floor to any questions that you guys might have that we might not have covered throughout the presentation. And myself, Sandy and Lara will try and answer them as best as we can.
I guess my question would be, oh sorry, Leanne, do you want to go?
No, you go.
Any tips for staying patient doing all of this? Because I try my best to do these sorts of things and sort of roll with the interests, but actually if I need to either wrap something up or I need there to be some sort of focus, any tips for staying patient and encouraging focus where it is necessary on a subject?
So my advice was, obviously it takes a lot of practice and these aren't skills that kind of just develop overnight. And, you know, it's so hard to be like responsive parenting all the time. However, doing it occasionally is better than not doing it at all. So I think, you know, just take pride in the fact that actually you're giving it a go, because there are lots of parents out there who don't. So the fact that you're doing a good job 50% of the time in terms of the communication and the meaningful play, take that as a win, is my advice on that. Lara or Sandy, have you got anything to add to that?
I think very much being respectful to their learning in respects of the way I used to parent is like, if I want you to put your shoes on, you need to put your shoes on, we're going, come on, we're going. Whereas actually I've learned a lot over the last probably year and a bit that actually I need to add 10 minutes onto my schedule because I know that's going to take 10 minutes longer. And I think as an adult, you know, you can go, right, I'm leaving the house, I need to get my shoes, get my coat. But then, for example, Emily, if I said to you now, Emily, get your coat. Emily, come on, get up, go get your coat. Emily, come on, by the cupboard, your shoes by the cupboard, go get your coat. In that instance, in that 10 seconds, I've asked you to do about 10 different things. And you're going to stand there going, I'm not sure where I'm going. And equally for children, they generally remember the last thing that you ask them and can quite often forget the things before. So I think here and as a parent myself, I've learned a lot about giving more time. So yes, I can work at that pace. I can be really fast. I can load the car and get my shoes on. But at that time, that child can't. Or my little one at home can't do that. And I think it's me accepting as a parent and as a practitioner that I need to give that extra time. So we do a lot of, especially in preschool, but more so in toddlers as well. We do like a 10 minutes, we're going to tidy up. In 5 minutes, we're going to tidy up. And we do that little bit of a warning so they know. So it's not a big shock and it gives them time to round those things up, because things like, you imagine if you've done a jigsaw puzzle and I've said to you, right, come on, we're going now, it's going back in the box. But you only had 2 pieces left to put in, but it's gone in the box. Your gratification, your satisfaction for that isn't there. But then if I'd said to you, right, in 5 minutes, we're packing this away, that would have given you time to either ask for help to finish it or to get it finished. And you then would have been satisfied with it. So I think for me, as a practitioner, I've learned that I just need to step back a bit and think about it from their perspective.
Yeah, and furthermore to that, a strategy that we find works really well within setting is using like a now and next strategy. So rather than giving lots and lots of instructions, giving like spoon feeding them one at a time. So now we're going to put the puzzle in the box. Next, we're going to find your coat, and then just giving them that one instruction at a time and preparing them for the next step is really, really beneficial. And it helps you to remain a bit more grounded and calm, because you're like, okay, I've only asked one thing rather than I want them to be ready and waiting by the door for me. Do you see where I'm going? It's a lot easier for you and keeps you sane if you just do little bits and often. Has anybody else got any questions?
I didn't have a question. I was just going to ask. I know it's been recorded for the people that can't attend, but will we get the recordings as well? For those who don't know, me and my daughter, we live with my parents, and I think it might be beneficial for Nanny and Grandad to have sight of this, because they're great. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely are. But times have changed a lot since I was little and since they've parented, and I just think, like, you know, like my daughter Sophia, she's starting to throw stuff a lot lately, so I found that was interesting when you talked about that. And so my mum and dad will say, oh no, you don't throw your toys, but actually it'd be good for them to see that, like, you know, it's actually part of a learning and part of a stage that she needs to go through. So I just wondered if the video would be available, although now they'll see me saying this, won't they? They'll see me grassing on the I might end it at the end of how'd you keep the patience? God.
I'll mute it. Bear with us.
Sorry, can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I will send out the presentation to everybody with email addresses. I'll send it out to all of you so you've all got it, and there's no harm done. And if grandparents or anybody would also like a link, if you want to email me with their email address, I can send that out as well.
Lovely, thank
I'll
you.
some links for schemas as well, so you can look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great, thank you.
Fabulous. Any more questions?
Yeah, I had a really quick question on the Makaton piece, because I've noticed that
Oh, hang on, no, we're on mute. Sorry, try again.
did you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's just the Makaton piece. So I've noticed that Sky's been doing quite a lot of signing, and I don't know any Makaton, and so I feel terrible that I can't recognise what she's signing to me. So I don't know if you recommend a Makaton learning like book or anything on YouTube or anything that we can access quite easily, so I can start and ensuring that it's consistent with what you're teaching at nursery, to ensure that it's consistent with, you know, what I'm trying to do back to her if she is trying to kind of communicate in that way.
Well,
Sorry, Laura.
Sorry. We're actually hosting a parent workshop around Makaton and communication as well. So our staff team are going to be kind of sat down doing like a Makaton session with parents and families, so you're more than welcome to join that. I'd say another top tip, if you've got us on social media, we do quite a lot of Makaton signs on there. And then my other one, my favourite one on YouTube is probably Singing Hands.
That's what I was going to say, Laura. They're my favourite.
Oh yeah. I think sometimes if you just Google it, you can get a bit of an overlap between British Sign Language, Makaton. It can all get a little bit confusing. So I'd say, if in doubt, speak to the staff teams. If you let them know, I'm really passionate about learning this. If they have learned a new sign to teach to your little one, they can be able to show you on handovers as well. If they know that's an interest, they can work with you too. But yeah, join our session that we've got coming up on it as well.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And that was that Singing Hands, did you say, on YouTube? Okay, I'll have a look for that. Thanks.
There we go. Have we got any more questions before we end the session? I think that's it. Wonderful. Thanks for listening, everybody. It's been so lovely.
Yeah, as Emma said, thanks for attending. We will send you over all the PowerPoints information to support it. And like we said, obviously, any queries, questions, you can drop us an email, give us a call, and we can direct you into the right places.
Perfect. Thanks,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.